Hello everyone, my name is Leslie Eldridge. Welcome to my presentation, Aligning Open Badges and Open Credentialing with Open Pedagogical Frameworks to Address the Growing Skills Gap. We are experiencing a global skills gap that involves three stakeholders: the individual, employers, and higher education. Individuals are frustrated with an old paradigm and model that furthering your education will mean that you gain access to jobs. They have accumulated extreme amounts of student loan debt and are unable to find jobs after graduating college. Employers, on the other hand, have also relied on this system to pull talent from a pool of highly educated degree applicants, yet are dissatisfied with the lack of skills their employees possess when coming on board. The third stakeholder, higher education, is a large, complex system and has proven too slow to change or accommodate the market demands required for success from students graduating from their institution. I want to discuss today how we can provide better transparency into these stakeholders and their systems so that individuals can make better informed decisions, have more control over their learning paths and where they might lead, how companies can also see more talent potential for better hiring processes and ultimate business decisions and intelligence, and lastly, how higher education can partner with both the individual and employers to enable and expand opportunities for all involved in this process. The previous model of graduating high school and going to college, getting a job, and working that same job for 30 years, and then retiring is no longer sustainable. In addition to brick and mortar education institutions, today's learning landscape is diverse, global, online, and mobile. We can all agree that learning can take place anywhere. We want to ensure that all types of learning is counted towards the goals of the learner. Skills and learning should be credentialed outside work or the classroom, but how is that accomplished? Currently, we only have paper certificates or diplomas that represent structured class time and, in some instances, online learning. This is an analog stackable credentialed pathway showing one form of a learning path for the learner to receive the outcome of the degree or diploma. How do we re-engage learners so that when they learn anywhere, anytime, counts towards their personal learning goals? Let's talk about digital badges. The digital badge movement originated with Mozilla in 2011. I first want to clarify the difference between digital badges and open badges. The image on the left represents my personal profile on TripAdvisor. I earn badges based on the amount of reviews I complete, plus badges for the different categories I write about, such as foods, hotels, city, and culture. Other than showing you my profile, I can only tell you about the badges I've earned. I am unable to share my badges on my LinkedIn profile, a job application, or social media. However, the image on the right side represents an open badge. This is a sample of what a badge could look like that represents a learning course. This one happens to be an emerging technology robotics badge. Once this badge is earned, the earner is awarded full rights to share and display the badge publicly, either on their e-portfolio, resume, or social media. By clicking on the front of the badge, the viewer is quickly shown evidence-rich data about the learner and the course. Here we see the name of the course, the URL or host provider of the content, the learner's name, the description of the course, the instructor, the learner's score of the content, and the evidence the learner had to provide to earn the badge. Open badges are a critical component for our digital learning evolution. They transcend multiple facets of training and learning while granularly personalizing a learning journey which has the capacity to engage all groups into new ways of credentialing and capture real-time lifelong learning. There's a tremendous upside to implementing open badges into your learning or training strategy. The first pro I want to address is that open badges are digital containers for content. If your company has content but only offer paper certificates for going through your programs, you should consider open badges as a digital bridge to push out your content to multiplied online learners seeking your offering. The second perk to open badge utilization is the portability and stackability feature it provides. As we discussed earlier, the analog pathway of learning involved receiving paper certificates and courses offered through higher education, resulting in a degree. Learners receiving an open badge that showcases evidence of a competency in an area are able to stack these credentials throughout multiple channels for higher visibility into areas of interest to them, such as employment, interest groups, etc. This also gives complete control to the learner in the direction of their own learning outcomes. And for visual references, we see that the robotics badge we talked about earlier, since it is open, is also part of the collective whole and connects to multiple levels of skills and learning. Open badges are shareable across multiple digital platforms and social media. Once the badge is earned, it is completely up to the individual whether to make the badge public or private. If the badge is public, anyone looking for the metadata could potentially find the badge. When thinking of a resume or e-portfolio or your LinkedIn profile, we are still having to verify credentials, following up on references, or second-guessing if we hired the right person. Open Badges is an evidence-rich competency and evidence-based tool. Once the evidence is given and the badge is awarded by the host provider, the metadata is hard-coded into the badge and impossible to tamper with. This gives greater authentication and credibility into the evidence provided and also takes the work out of all the middle management for manually verifying credentials. From a solutions perspective, we see that the skills gap can be eliminated with the use and adoption of open badges in an open framework. Here we see the learner has earned the Java 101 badge. He posted it to his ePortfolio, then placed it on a job application for work, and while he still retains the thirst for even more skills and knowledge, universities are also able to give credit based on the competencies and evidence he has provided. The same is true for the skills badge. Because of the metadata associated with the evidence of the badge, it is not only a mechanism for the learner to find jobs that highlight those skills, but because of the metadata and evidence, it also increases the individual's visibility into the marketplace for employment. So far, we have discussed open badges and their integrity as a skills gap solution. But how are open badges implemented if you're still operating under a closed proprietary system? In order to implement open badges as part of your business or education strategy, you must operate in an open source framework. As mentioned earlier, Mozilla introduced open badges in 2011 and has open source code for you to implement to your existing framework. This is based on open badge infrastructure and allows you to host your badge content and award other learners for completing the badge courses you offer without interfering with your proprietary mainframe. Open source is not new. Think back to the era of the VCR or DVR. It played movies you put into it. But let's say your tape broke or the DVR disc got scratched. When you went out to buy a new movie, you didn't have to worry if the DVR was Sony or RCA or Mitsubishi because the movie was formatted on open standards to play in any VCR or DVR machine. This is the same concept in which open source operates as well. By adopting an open badge infrastructure, any open badge can be awarded and displayed between various entities. This open framework opens up new forms of data that have not been considered before or captured, which are open data points. How can we harness the power of technology using big data and analytics to help track effectiveness of different badge-based interventions using a tool such as the Experience API to produce enough data points to build predictive models to provide the level of efficiency, customization, and personalization expected by the end users and learners? How do we track effectiveness of given interventions for a given set of attributes and provide in-learner personalization based on the same? To achieve this, we can incorporate the offerings of the Experience API to produce the requisite data points. Through the XAPI, we can generate and store statements that are natural language evidence of a learner's activities. This one-to-many relationship between evidence and evidence types we believe is a transformative tool in the assessment and learning process. Once these data points have been generated and centrally collected, the outcome produces a set of unique perspectives for each of the stakeholders mentioned earlier in this presentation. The individual has groundbreaking insight into not only the specific skills employers are looking for, independent of any existing degree or certification pathways they may be aware of, but they also get to see how their credentials outside of formal education match with what employers really want. Companies can perform 2 tasks with accuracy that they have been unsuccessful with in the past. From a human resource perspective, they can have a bird's eye view of potential future employees, and from that perspective, provide clarity to education in terms of what skills are missing and what programs are needed to be constructed, and the temporal forecasting in terms of demand. Lastly, higher education now has a unique perspective on supply and demand in an unprecedented manner. On the supply side, they can see what skills and competencies are missing from a non-traditional student base, which the education market is desperately trying to tap into. But on the demand side, they have an unbiased perspective of what the marketplace is looking for and tie unique offerings that bridge the other stakeholders together into a unified ecosystem. Thank you very much for your attention. If you would like to contact me or connect with me, please do so using the information on the screen. Thanks again. Goodbye.